I never thought I'd live to see the day my own daughter would look me dead in the eyes and tell me she wanted me gone. Not just gone from her life, but gone from the very home I built with my hands, the home that held every memory of her childhood. Mom, she said, her voice cold, calculated, almost rehearsed, you'll be more comfortable in a home, somewhere quiet, somewhere with people your age. Can you imagine hearing that from your own child, the one you raised, fed, sacrificed everything for? Tell me, was I wrong for what I did next? Because when she decided she was done with me, I decided I was done being her fool. It all started a few months after my husband, David, passed away. We'd been married for 38 years, and his death left a hole in me I can't describe. The kind of pain that creeps into every breath. For a while, I felt like I was living in a fog. My daughter, Melissa, visited often at first. She'd bring groceries, sit with me, make sure I ate. But slowly her visits became shorter, then less frequent. Eventually, it was only phone calls, and those calls, they weren't about how I was doing. They were about the house. See, David and I bought this house when Melissa was just 5. A cozy 3-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood, with a garden he planted full of roses and hydrangeas. Over the years, that house became more than just walls and floors. It was the living proof of our entire life together. Birthdays, holidays, late night arguments, laughter over burnt dinners. It all happened there, and after David passed, it became my sanctuary. But to Melissa, it was just property. She'd say things like, "Mom, this place is too big for you now," or "Think about how much you could get if you sold it." I thought she was worried about me, but I was wrong. The real shift came the day she brought over a man I'd never met. She introduced him as Greg, her boyfriend. He seemed nice enough, charming, polite. But something about the way he looked around my house, like he was already measuring it, made my skin crawl. A few weeks later, Melissa sat me down. "Mom," she said, "Greg's in real estate. He says your house could sell for nearly $500,000. Imagine what you could do with that money. You could move into a nice senior community, travel, relax." I smiled politely, but inside I was sick, because I knew her tone. It wasn't concern, it was calculation. Still, I brushed it off. Maybe I was being paranoid, until one morning I overheard her talking to Greg in the kitchen. They didn't know I was up. I heard her say, "Once she's out, we can start renovations right away." Out. Like I was a tenant, not her mother, just someone taking up space in what she already saw as hers. My heart sank, and I knew then that something ugly was brewing. A few weeks later, I got the full picture. Melissa came over one afternoon with coffee and pastries. She sat me down again, this time with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mom," she said, "I've been thinking about your future. You shouldn't be alone here. Greg and I found a wonderful assisted living community. It's beautiful. You'll have your own room, nurses to help you. Even activities, you'll love it." I stared at her, speechless. She handed me a brochure and started showing me pictures, like she was selling me a vacation package. Then came the kicker, "And once you're settled, we can start getting this place ready for sale." I felt my throat close up. "Getting it ready for sale," I repeated. She nodded. "Yes, Mom, you'll thank me later. It's too much for you to handle now." I asked her why she was in such a hurry, and she said, "Because I already spoke with Greg's company. They're interested in buying the property directly." That's when it hit me. She wasn't helping me, she was helping herself. You'd think a mother's instinct would dull with age, but it doesn't. I could see the greed in her eyes, the same sparkle David used to call her spoiled princess look. Only now it wasn't cute, it was chilling. Still, I didn't say anything. I told her I'd think about it. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and left the house humming. That night I sat in the living room, surrounded by the echoes of my past, and cried. But when I stopped crying, something inside me hardened. If she thought she could use me, she had another thing coming. So I did some thinking. The house was in my name alone, David had made sure of that. And Melissa, despite all her assumptions, never asked me about the deed. She just assumed that, as my only child, she'd get it all one day. I suppose she would have if she hadn't tried to push me out while I was still breathing. So I made a plan. The next week, I met with a real estate agent, a woman named Carol, smart, kind, and blunt. I told her everything. She listened, shook her head, and said, "You're not the first parent to deal with this, but you don't owe anyone your home." Together, we listed the house quietly, without telling Melissa. Within 2 weeks, we had a serious buyer, an older couple who loved the garden and didn't mind paying in full. I accepted the offer without hesitation. The closing date was set for the following month. Meanwhile, I played along with Melissa's little scheme. She'd call and ask if I'd made a decision about the senior home, and I'd tell her I was still considering it. I even let her take me on a tour of one, just to keep her convinced. She seemed thrilled, already talking about what she'd do with the extra space, and how Greg could finally set up his office. I smiled through it all, biting my tongue so hard I tasted blood. When the sale went through, I packed my things quietly. Just the essentials: photos, jewelry, letters from David, a few keepsakes. I didn't tell Melissa a word. I moved into a small rental cottage a few towns over, cozy and peaceful, surrounded by trees and silence. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, and more importantly, it was free of her manipulation. A few days later, I got the call I'd been waiting for. Melissa, her voice was frantic. "Mom, what happened? There are people at the house, strangers moving furniture. They said they bought the place from you." I took a deep breath and said calmly, "They did, sweetheart." Silence, then she exploded. "You sold it, without telling me." "What the hell, Mom? That was supposed to be my inheritance." I couldn't help but laugh. "Inheritance?" I said. "You mean the house you were trying to throw me out of?" She tried to backpedal, her voice shaking. "Mom, I just wanted what was best for you." I cut her off. "No, Melissa, you wanted what was best for you. You wanted me out so you and your boyfriend could move in and profit off my grief. You forgot one thing, though. I'm not dead yet." She screamed something incoherent before hanging up. I didn't hear from her for a week. Then, a letter arrived in the mail. It was a long, tridden note about how she'd only been trying to help, and that she was devastated I'd done something so extreme. She said Greg broke up with her after the whole ordeal, calling her unstable. I should have felt bad, but honestly, I didn't. She needed that wake-up call. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Was I too harsh? Should I have forgiven her? Before I tell you how things turned out, I want you to pause and tell me. What would you have done if your own child tried to push you out of your home? Would you have given in or fought back like I did? All right, here's what happened next. After the dust settled, Melissa tried to contact me again. She came to my new place one morning, unannounced. I opened the door, and there she was, eyes red, mascara smudged, holding a bag of groceries. "Mom," she said softly, "can we talk?" I let her in. We sat at my small kitchen table, the silence so heavy it felt like the walls were listening. She apologized, really apologized, for the first time in years, said she didn't realize how cruel she'd been, claimed Greg had been pushing her, convincing her that selling the house was the smart thing. I listened, but I could tell she wasn't just sorry. She was scared. Losing the house meant losing control. For once, she had to face herself without something to gain. I told her I forgave her, because forgiveness isn't for the other person, it's for your own peace. But I also told her something else, that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I made it clear that I'd never trust her with my affairs again. She cried, said she understood, and asked if we could rebuild. I told her that would depend on her actions, not her words. Over time, we've spoken here and there. She visits sometimes, but it's different now. There's a distance between us that wasn't there before. I miss the little girl she used to be, the one who'd run through the garden barefoot, laughing while David sprayed her with the hose. That girl would never have done what she did, but people change, greed, desperation, or maybe fear of losing control. It changes people. As for me, I've found peace. I planted a small garden behind my cottage, just like the one David used to tend. Every morning, I sit outside with my coffee and talk to him in my head. I tell him about the birds, the weather, sometimes even about Melissa. I think he'd be proud of me for standing my ground, for refusing to let anyone treat me like I was disposable. And you know what? That house, our house, still stands. The new owners kept the garden, even sent me a photo of the roses blooming. It's funny, in a way. Melissa thought that house defined her future, but it was never hers to begin with. It was mine, it was David's, and letting it go was the best decision I ever made. Because sometimes the only way to take your life back is to let go of what others are trying to steal from you. So no, I don't regret what I did. I don't regret selling the house or shocking my daughter into realizing how far she'd fallen. It wasn't revenge, it was self-respect, and maybe, just maybe, one day she'll understand that. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you have sold the house too? Or would you have given your child one more chance to hurt you? I've made my choice, and I can live with it. Like this video if you think I was right to stand my ground. Subscribe for more real life stories like this one, and let me know in the comments. What do you think? Was I justified, or did I go too far? Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.